try remembering the last time that you noticed yourself feeling anxious. Maybe it was this morning before your eyes even opened. Remember what it was like the moment that you clued in that you were experiencing anxiety. What was your immediate reaction to that? What was your automatic opinion on the fact that you were anxious? My guess is, in some way or another, you made it wrong. You judged that it was happening, or maybe even judged yourself by telling yourself things like, I should stop being so negative. I know better than this. This isn't helpful. I know that I'm being stupid. And when you are in resistance to reality, you suffer. And when you're in an insufferable war with what is, you ironically are pouring more of your attention and energy into it and becoming more stuck to it. Hi, hello, and welcome to this solo-sode of the Madness of Meaning podcast. My name is Kelly, and I am the one of two co-hosts of this podcast. And in this episode, obviously doing something a little bit different because I am not joined by Amanda, I really wanted to dive very specifically into a process that is aimed at helping you overcome the tight grip and the chokehold that anxiety has over your life. If you are anything like me, you are probably very familiar with that girl anxiety. And so this podcast is really going to be aimed towards the girls and the bros that have at least some experience being woken up in the middle of the night by their own worry, or sitting across from someone not hearing a thing that they're saying because you are lost in a sea of thought about everything that's going wrong and will continue to go wrong in your life, where you've noticed that your relationships, your health, your career success, your ability to be creative, to be in your joy, and to play has been in some way, shape, or form negatively impacted by the way that your mind likes to run in negativity. Before we get into detailing what's really going on here and how to overcome it, let's start by clearly defining what anxiety is. Anxiety is just a pattern of thought. It's worrying about what's going to go wrong and then projecting possible worst case scenarios into the future. It's also associated with a tense sensation in the body, usually in the chest. Maybe you have a quicker heartbeat, but sometimes it can even be felt in other areas of your body, like a pit in your stomach, or clenching your jaw, or squeezing your hands. If you're familiar with anxiety, aka shibitsu often, you've probably realized by now that anxiety is almost never telling the truth. It often grabs your attention and forces it onto things that, in the end, didn't need your attention. It gets you worked up over things that don't end up being a problem. It ruins experiences for no good reason that you now have to live in regret and loss over. So it's really easy to see anxiety as bad, that it's wrong, it's a burden. It does nothing but diminish your quality of life and crap all over your relationships, job, social life. But something that you must know in order to begin separating from the tremendous negative impact that anxiety has over your life is that it has a purpose, a good one at that. Everything that we do because on some level we think that it's helpful. Otherwise, we just would not do it. And when we solely focus on how something that we're experiencing is negatively impacting our lives We end up in a position where we're resentfully watching ourselves fall victim to the same patterns and feeling more and more helpless that things are never going to change. Why? Because when we judge something, ironically, we're more stuck to it. And if you don't believe me, I want you to try remembering the last time that you noticed yourself feeling anxious. Maybe it was this morning before your eyes even opened. Remember what it was like the moment that you clued in that you were experiencing anxiety. What was your immediate reaction to that? What was your automatic opinion on the fact that you were anxious? My guess is, in some way or another, you made it wrong. You judged that it was happening, or maybe even judged yourself by telling yourself things like, I should stop being so negative. I know better than this. This isn't helpful. I know that I'm being stupid. And when you are in resistance to reality, you suffer. And when you're in an insufferable war with what is, you ironically are pouring more of your attention and energy into it and becoming more stuck to it. Think of it like this. Not only are you anxious, but you're anxious over the fact that you're anxious. You begin worrying that you're worrying. And this is when we seemingly get locked into a never-ending spiral into our reality. As you're staring up at the ceiling, walking through a crowd of people at work with not much awareness of where you are or who is around you because the stories in your head are so much more prominent than what's going on. So back to how anxiety is purposeful. Anxiety is just a learned process of your brain that was designed to help you. It was, well, the easiest way to conceptualize it is how anxiety is intentioned to be helpful, is that if you think about everything that could go wrong, you'll find solutions to the problem at hand or get ahead of the problem and prevent it from happening. Anxiety is essentially trying to move you away from pain or discomfort by foreseeing what situations or problems could cause pain or discomfort, and then attempting to avoid the problem or figure out the perfect way to deal with it. And that level of control creates an illusion of feeling safe and secure. Almost like if I worry about it enough, maybe it won't happen. Or if I worry about it enough, then I'll be better prepared to handle it. But you probably see the irony in that, right? The irony is in the fact that the very thing anxiety is trying to avoid, it's actually creating. Because as you're spiraling over everything that's going to go wrong or that could go wrong, you're feeling massively tense in your body, uncomfortable in the present moment, unsafe about the future, and focusing on any incoming pain. And being able to recognize both the innocence and the irony of anxiety in the moments that it's happening is the first massive step in overcoming it. Especially when it comes to matters of your psyche and how you internally respond and react in your life, you change it by changing your relationship with it. Because directly trying to make anxiety go away, trying to convince yourself not to worry or to tell yourself positive affirmations does not work. You wouldn't be watching this video if it was that simple. So rather than perpetuating your war on anxiety, where every time that it comes up, you resist it, wish it would stop happening, and then shame yourself for being so negative, you practice a different way of relating to anxiety. So imagine this. Imagine that you just knew that anxiety was never going to go away completely. It was just always going to be a part of your human experience, no matter what. How would you want to be with anxiety when it comes up? What would you ideally like your relationship with anxiety to be in that hypothetical scenario? Would you want to be mad at it every time? Would you want to shame yourself over it? Would you want to be in complete denial of it or be ashamed that it's happening and want to hide it from the world because you don't like the fact that you're being so negative? Understanding how you want to be with anxiety is the first major turning point in your journey to overcoming it and becoming free from the chokehold that anxiety has over your life. So let's break this down practically. Let's imagine you in the morning. You've randomly been woken up before your alarm, and your mind starts spinning in that familiar turmoil, right? You're thinking about finances, you're thinking about your job, you're thinking about that conversation that you didn't handle as well as you could have. And then you have a moment of realization. You're keeping yourself awake by looping in worry. Notice your automatic guttural reaction to that realization. Are you annoyed? Are you frustrated? Are you becoming increasingly worried because now you're missing out on precious sleep? Notice what that's like. Can you feel the internal battle that you just entered? Where you're at war with reality? Where you wish what was happening wasn't? Notice what it's like to be in resistance to the moment. Do you feel any contraction or tightness in your body? Are you clenching your jaw or your hands? Is there a tightness in your chest or your gut? How would you describe this feeling? Now, this is where we create a new pathway, a new way of being inside of this experience as a way of overcoming it. So here's what you're going to do next. I want you to bring in the awareness that anxiety is here for a reason, and a good one at that. Remember that this is just your strategy of avoiding pain and discomfort. Can you empathize with a past version of you that learned that if you just think about something enough, you'll be better prepared to handle it? A past version of you that learned that if you don't expect something to happen and then it does, it can be really painful or stressful. And at the same time, can you acknowledge the fact that this strategy of avoiding pain kind of works, but not that well? That by worrying about everything that could go wrong, it creates massive discomfort in the present moment. And also, can you acknowledge that sometimes, no matter how much you worry about something in the future, you won't be any better at handling it if it does happen? Notice what it's like to be in the experience of anxiety with these new perspectives. What changes? Do you change how you're holding your body? Does your attention feel less scrutinizing and more open? Do you notice that you're less concerned about escaping where you are and more just in the fascination of where you are and why? Acceptance and compassion are the medicine to stuckness and judgment. Imagine how much more resourceful and creative you can be at creating positive future outcomes when you aren't leaking all of this energy into the pursuit of being somewhere other than where you are. So now that you have a reference experience for how you can create a different experience of your anxiety, let's dive more fully into contexting what is going on with middle of the night anxiety. And then I'll share with you some more practices that you can use to start escaping from the anxiety chokehold. From my understanding, middle of the night anxiety, where your mind just takes off into the abyss of worry and negativity before your eyes even open, is related to the fact that our brain state is transitioning from the subconscious and unconscious that we accessed more fully when we were sleeping. And one big thing to understand here is that the body is the unconscious. Our body stores memory, it stores trauma, it stores unprocessed energy or emotion, and it's therefore become hardwired for how to navigate the world, moving away from pain and moving towards pleasure. And so when we are just waking up and we're more fully tapping into the internal systems that have been conditioned to keep us safe, one strong way that you've learned to keep yourself safe is to think about everything that poses or could pose a threat, causing some kind of loss or pain or discomfort, and then to harp on it over and over and over and over until you found a way to avoid or manage that potential threat. So really what this is telling us is that in your body, nervous system, unconscious, you do not feel inherently safe. There is a perception of a threat that lives in your body. And when that is sensed, your mind kicks in to try making sense of that threatening feeling by looking to the outside world in everything that is or could go wrong. But as you've probably learned through many experiences of getting anxious over things that, as it turns out, you didn't need to worry about at all, the threat being outside of you is pretty much never true. It's not your finances or your job or your partner or your annoying coworker that's posing a threat to your safety and your inner stability. Your nervous system is just set at threat, like a thermostat, and it's constantly looking for evidence in the outside world to justify keeping your temperature set there. And as long as you keep looking for evidence to support why you should feel unsafe, you are going to find that evidence. There's a never-ending pool of potential threats that your mind can grasp at, extending far beyond physical threats to your actual survival, looking at things like being judged, or ashamed, or abandoned and rejected, or unsuccessful and failing, missing out or being deprived, being insignificant. And so this experience of anxiety was never going to be fixed by controlling the outside world, as much as that did kind of make sense on the surface. Figuring out the finances, resolving the conflict with that person, getting the validation that you needed at work to feel secure in your job, all of that could absolutely soften the anxiety. I mean, don't get me wrong, we are absolutely affected by what happens to us. When we see the lump sum of money sitting in our bank account, it gives us one less thing to justify that we're not going to be okay, and that might allow us to relax a little for a while. But that's the key. It's temporary. Because if your thermostat is set at a level of threat, your mind is going to kick in to bring you back to that familiarity by finding something else to worry about. Always, 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 always. I mean, literally look at your track record of every time that you worried about something and then you fixed it, you resolved the conflict, or you got the new job, or you saved the money, or whatever it is. And then that relief that you felt was so temporary, it didn't even really feel like you had an opportunity to actually recover from the stress that you were feeling, because very soon your mind grabbed onto something else that needed to be fixed in order for you to feel safe. And so if we want to break out of the chokehold that anxiety has over your day-to-day life, waking you up in the morning, sending you into a tailspin before your feet even hit the floor, it's necessary to create and nurture a foundation of safety from within. You need to create an internal environment where your mind won't need to justify why you feel so unsafe. And of course, there are infinite reasons for and degrees to which people's nervous systems are stuck in threat or survival. If you have unresolved big T trauma It's highly recommended that you seek support from a trained professional that can help you process and integrate what you haven't had the tools to do so on your own. In order to reprogram your nervous system to safety, a level of presence is required that is impossible for some people to access if they are living out of a trauma response. Trauma takes you out of the present as a protective mechanism. And even though most people's trauma happened to them a long time ago, their bodies have never been able to adjust back to the present moment because they're trying to run away from the past and prevent it from happening in the future. So if you're in doubt of your ability to hold presence as you tune more fully into your body and your nervous system, please take care of yourself and don't move any further into these practices that I'm about to share until a professional can hold space for you to do so. If you're wanting to have an experience right here with me, where you start retraining your mind and body into safety, let's start by just getting comfortable here for a moment. Do what you gotta do, change your position, lie down. And if at any point you start to lose presence or reality starts to feel like it's escaping you in a harmful way, just open your eyes, scan the room, drink water, gently caress your skin, do anything to remind you of your physical body and bring you back into the present moment. But for now, close your eyes and just gently scan your body, solely looking to notice what's here. Try to refrain from having an opinion on what you notice. Simply just notice what it's like to be here in your chair, in your body, listening to my voice. And take a moment to get really familiar with now. What is now like? From here, I want you to bring to mind someone that you feel deeply loved by. This can be a pet or a person. And just bring them into your imagination, into your mind's eye. Remembering how they love you, what it's like to be embraced by them, what it's like to see their excitement to see you, what it's like to receive their love, their support, to be deeply seen by them in a moment that you knew it was safe to be seen by them. Imagine what it's like to have them goofily smooch all over your face, or if it's a pet, lick all over your face, or for you to even do that to them. And just doing that in this overwhelming fit of just love and giddiness. Just notice what that's like. What sensation do you feel the most prominently? Do you feel your heart just swell open and burst open? Do you feel electricity somewhere in your body? Do you feel your face pull upwards? Like a neutral scientist in your own body, just notice what your direct experience of love is like in this very moment. Know that this feeling is yours. You just accessed it right here, right now. Memories of this person or pet evoked it in you, but they didn't give it to you because they're not here. Or maybe they are, but still. I want you to really land in the truth that the love you feel was accessed from within you. And if you accessed it from within you, you can access it anytime. Just revel in that. for another moment. And now I'm going to invite you to shift your focus to something that you have felt worried about recently. Maybe something you spiral about when you woke up this morning, or every morning for the last while, or something that happened earlier today that's been weighing on you ever since. Just give your mind full permission to remember the worry and the stress of this. Invite it in, welcome it. Notice what that's like. Notice what specific points your mind wants to focus on. Notice how your body contracts. Where do you feel contracted? And try not to have an opinion on it. Refrain from trying to change what you notice. Just simply be there, noticing, witnessing what your body does in reaction to these worrisome thoughts. And now sink your attention on the place in your body that feels the most contracted or tense. Pinpoint that contraction. And then drop out of your mind right into that sensation. Try not to look down on it from your head down, but rather drop directly into the area of your body that feels tense. And allow it to be there. As much as it wants to be there, just for right now. Just breathe acceptance into it. And notice what happens when it's welcome. Like a neutral scientist in your own life, just observe. What happens when this contraction is fully allowed? And if you notice yourself shoot back into your head and trail along a series of thoughts, that is perfectly okay. On your inhale, come back. Drop back into the sensation and swim your attention amongst it, allowing it to be there as much as it wants to be there. And just notice what that's like. What happens? And while you're doing this, bring back your awareness of the sensation that you accessed earlier when we were tuning into someone that you feel loved by. That zap of electricity or that swelling in your chest, that upward pull of your cheeks, the warm sensation in your gut. Whatever it was, call it back. What's it like to bring this sensation with you into the experience of your anxious, contracted, worried self? What's it like to hold both the anxiety and the love? To hold the contraction and the openness? To hold the cold, sharp, tight sensation with the warm, nourishing, comforting one? Stay here, oscillating your attention between these two sensations. Notice if these sensations change in intensity, in location, in size. Notice if they start to merge. Do you feel these two sensations integrating into something else? What is that like? Notice what it's like to access safety in the presence of a threat. Notice what it's like to access that safety when you were given a reason not to feel safe. Notice what it's like to believe in your okayness right now. Just take an energetic blueprint of this moment, knowing you are capturing this so that you can access it anytime you want. Imagine you accessing it anytime you want. Imagine how easy it will be to pop out of the anxiety spiral as you're laying in bed at 4 a.m. And just remember all of this. To remember that the anxiety is there for a good reason. That it's just the best way that you've learned how to keep yourself safe and come up with solutions to potential problems. To remember that as much as anxiety was trying to protect you against discomfort, ironically, it was creating it, and that's kind of hilarious. To remember that safety you were innocently looking for on the outside by finding problems and fixing them and controlling what happens to you, it never actually was found that way. The safety you were looking for is always here, right now. If you look for it, it's in the spark of electricity in your chest. It's in the grounded, nourishing feeling in your stomach. It's in the opening in your heart. It's in the remembering of what love is. That's your safety. And it's here whenever you want it. And remember that you will forget this and you will go back to trying to control and get worked up over anything you can possibly worry about. And that might suck. And you might get frustrated with yourself. And that's a part of this human experience. And it becomes an opportunity to ground in this new truth even more fully. It's your access point to even more experience of the safety that you can create from within. And that's awesome. That's good news that you're being taken through the process yet again, being initiated by that painfully familiar anxiety. I would love for you to just sit with this for as long as you need. Do what you want with it. If you want to turn this video off and just be in your own presence for a while, if you want to jot down any of your own insights or things from this experience that you would like to remember, please do. If you want to use this video in the future as an anchor point, almost like a guided meditation to come back to what this experience of your own safety is really like, and to own that and to really learn how much better life gets when you can access and create your own stability from within. Then save this video, share it with someone that you think would find it helpful. I so appreciate you following along and listening to this podcast. Feel free to give it a rating, a review, and subscribe to us on whatever platform you enjoy the most. If you would like to find out more about us and the work that we do and how you can follow us on other platforms and see what we're doing over there, you can find all of that in the show notes. And I look forward to seeing you in next week's episode.